When is an invincible army not invincible? When they pick a fight with a god. That's the core question, isn't it? We've all seen stories where a massive, gleaming army marches across the land, banners flying, confident in their victory. They represent order, strength, maybe even what they believe is good. But what happens when that unstoppable force meets an immovable object? Or rather, what happens when they meet a force so far beyond their comprehension that their strength becomes utterly meaningless? Imagine this scene. A vast, burning battlefield. The air is thick with smoke and the scent of iron. The ground is already littered with the casualties of a brutal war. On one side, you have the remnants of a proud human army. Thousands of them, clad in shining armor, a sea of steel and determination. You hear the blare of war horns, a defiant call to charge, and the thunderous roar of thousands of soldiers screaming for blood and vengeance. They are the heroes of their own story, fighting for their kingdom, their people, their very survival. They represent the pinnacle of human martial power. And on the other side, just one figure, standing completely still amidst the chaos. Let's call him the Shadow Sovereign. He's not large or monstrous in the traditional sense. He's just there, a silent silhouette against the fiery backdrop. He's the endgame boss who decided to show up at the very beginning of the level. The human army, seeing this lone figure, probably feels a mix of confusion and contempt. Is this a joke? Is this all they have left? Their commander, a knight of legendary renown, points his gleaming sword forward. Charge. For glory. For humanity. And so they run, a tide of angry, righteous steel, rushing to crush this single, arrogant fool. But the Shadow Sovereign doesn't move. He doesn't draw a sword. He doesn't even flinch. As the thunder of that charge grows deafening, he slowly, almost lazily, raises a single finger. Just one. It's a gesture of such casual, dismissive power that it's more terrifying than any war cry. And in that instant, the world breaks. The sky, once filled with the red glow of fire, turns pitch black. The sun is just gone. A deep, soul-shaking bass hum resonates through the very air, and a colossal, intricate magic circle, glowing with an ominous purple light, materializes above the battlefield, eclipsing everything. The charging army falters for a second, their momentum broken by sheer awe and terror. They challenged a god, and the god has just answered. This is where the fight begins, but it's not a fight. It's a harvest. The screen flashes with rapid cuts, a montage of pure, unfiltered despair. From the ground beneath the soldiers, thousands of razor-sharp spikes made a pure shadow erupt without warning. One moment they're charging, the next they're impaled, their battle cries turning into choked gurgles. Before the others can even process what's happening, the Shadow Sovereign gestures again, and a colossal wave, a tsunami of black fire and raw darkness, washes over the ranks. There are no screams of pain, because there's no time. Soldiers, horses, siege weapons, they don't burn. They simply disintegrate, turning to ash and vanishing on the wind. A volley of arrows, thousands of them, fired by the archers in the back, soars towards RMC. For a moment, it looks like a cloud of deadly insects that will blot out the sky. But as they approach him, they just stop. They freeze in midair, suspended a few feet away from him, their momentum completely nullified. Then, with the clatter of 1,000 falling twigs, they drop uselessly to the ground. It's a complete and total denial of their efforts. Their best weapons, their last resort, treated like a minor inconvenience. Through the chaos, one human knight, maybe the commander who ordered the charge, actually makes it through. He's a true hero, a legend in his own right. His armor enchanted, his resolve unbreakable. He's covered in soot and blood, but his eyes burn with righteous fury. He raises his holy sword, glowing with a faint golden light, and charges the Shadow Sovereign, screaming a final, defiant war cry. He is the last hope of his army, and for a split second, you think, maybe, just maybe, WHOOSH. the Shadow Sovereign vanishes. He simply ceases to be where he was. The knight's sword swings through empty air, his lunge carrying him forward. Then, a T-H-U-D. The MC is now behind him, not having moved in a blur, but having teleported instantly. He didn't even use a weapon. A single, casual backhand chop to the neck. The legendary knight, the last bastion of hope, collapses like a puppet with its strings cut. No epic duel. No dramatic final words. Just an execution. Effortless. Contemptuous. The few remaining soldiers are frozen in absolute terror. They've dropped their weapons. Their spirits are broken. They've seen their entire army, their hope, their greatest hero, dismantled in less than a minute. They're not soldiers anymore. They're just terrified people waiting to die. The Shadow Sovereign looks over the field of broken bodies and broken wills. He slowly opens his palm, facing the sky, and then the pressure comes. An invisible, crushing force slams down on the entire battlefield. Gravity itself multiplies 100-fold. The remaining soldiers are slammed to their knees, their armor groaning and buckling, their weapons lying on the ground, shatter into pieces. The very earth cracks and splinters under the immense pressure. You see it in slow motion, the faces of the soldiers contorting not in pain, but in sheer, suffocating despair as they are crushed into the dirt. But our MC isn't finished. This wasn't just about winning a battle. It was about making a statement. He begins a low, guttural chant. The words ancient and full of terrible power. The massive magic circle in the sky begins to spin faster and faster, pulling in all light and energy. A colossal sphere of pure, swirling dark energy forms at its center, crackling with black lightning. It's a miniature black hole, a sun made of annihilation. The sky thunders, not with rain but with the sound of reality tearing apart. Then the spell drops. There's no massive explosion in the traditional sense, just a blinding, silent flash of white light that consumes everything. The entire battlefield, the bodies, the broken weapons, the very ground itself, it's all erased. Wiped clean from existence. When the light fades, there is nothing. Just a smoldering, glassy crater where an army once stood. The smoke slowly clears, revealing the Shadow Sovereign, completely untouched, standing at the edge of the devastation. He takes a single, calm step forward, his footsteps echoing in the profound silence. He walks over the ruins of his enemies, not with triumph, but with an air of finality, as if he were merely taking out the trash. In that moment you understand, this wasn't a war. It was a judgment. Humanity, in its pride and arrogance, chose to challenge something it could not comprehend. And for that choice, the answer wasn't defeat. It was extinction. The final sound you hear isn't a triumphant score or a villainous laugh. It's a single, slow heartbeat. His heartbeat. Steady, unchanging. And then silence. The silence of a world that has been utterly and completely conquered, and you're left with one chilling thought. What happens when he decides to take another step? This kind of story, this power fantasy, resonates so deeply because it taps into that desire to see overwhelming, absolute competence. It's a subversion of the typical hero's journey. Here, the villain is the protagonist, and his power isn't something he struggles to attain. It's a fundamental part of his being. The story isn't about whether he will win. The story is about how spectacularly, how creatively, and how utterly he will dominate. It's the ultimate I am the storm moment, stretched into an entire narrative. And let's be honest, who doesn't love to see an overpowered MC just let loose every once in a while? Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this descent into absolute power, be sure to subscribe for more.